everybody, back again with another In My Collection Y, and I figured I'd do the very first game I could remember, for the Atari 2600 that is, because this isn't actually the first game I can ever remember, but it's certainly the first Atari 2600 game I remember, and that is Combat on the Atari 2600. Before I get into this, I will say that the first game I can remember was a standalone unit my uncle had, and I remember it was a, what was it called? It was called the Coleco Telstar. It was the Coleco Telstar Combat, and it's actually kind of a version of this made by Coleco into a standalone unit. And it had, I'll probably be showing a picture of it right now. It had the two joysticks, you know, push both up to go forward, both back. It had tank controls, is what I'm trying to say. And I remember trying to play that. They tried to let me play that, but I was like really little at the time. I might not have even been 5 years old, and I couldn't understand the motion of the tank. But that is the very first video game that I can remember. But getting back to Combat, this is actually the very first game I can remember. As you can see, I have the box here. I have a box and cartridge, but I don't have a manual. Where this box came from, I don't know. I don't remember. I think I might have saw this somewhere really cheap and picked it up with a box. Now, I actually had a whole bunch of different copies of this, and I had different versions, different labels. There's like a text label version. The Sears version of this is actually called Tanks Plus. I might have had a version of that. And I was actually collecting the different variants of Atari cartridges, but I decided, you know what, one is enough, and I went with the preferred one, and my preferred one is the one with the picture label. All the rest of them I sold. I had so many copies that I was selling Atari 2600 games in bundles, and every bundle had a copy of Combat in it. Because this is a really, really common game. Almost anybody that has an Atari 2600 has this game. And the reason for that is because Combat was actually a pack-in title for the Atari 2600, or the VCS as it was known back then. Did I know that back at the time? No, I didn't know that. That's something I found out during research. And that would also explain why almost everybody had it. Now, was it in every single bundle Atari 2600 or VCS that came out? I don't know that. I know initially the Atari 2600, or VCS as it was known back then. I keep saying 2600 because that's what I know it as. It was bundled with the console, two controllers, and a copy of Combat. Not 100% sure if it came with paddles or not, or if there were different bundles or not. But actually, let's get into Combat. You may notice there's some tanks and planes on the cartridge here, and also on the box. And what's actually, let me get into the box here. We got the box, and it says 27 video games, which is kind of misleading. It's there's actually 5 different games, if you want to call them games. They're all very similar, and then there's if you go into different settings, there's 27 different settings altogether. But what I think is really funny is the back of the box. If you saw this in a store, you would have no idea what this game looked like because there's no images. All it tells you is tank, tank pong, biplane, invisible tank, jet fighter, 2 players. And then it's even got Atari's address on the back of the box if you want to send them letters. And then big giant fine print, I guess, at the bottom here. Service agreements and that kind of stuff, and a picture of a joystick showing you what you'd be using to play this. Let me go through the different game modes, and I'll kind of talk about them as I remember them. All the footage that you're seeing on screen, I actually got my wife to play this with me, and we had a pretty good time playing it, although she was getting kind of tired of it, because I was like, oh, let's play this one, let's play that one, let's play. So we didn't play like every single variation, but but we played a lot of them. Most 2600 games, or you got like 27 different games or 50 different games, you kind of have to look in the manual. And luckily, most of the manuals for every game is online. But I printed out a page of the back of it, and it's got a little grid here. And going down the side here, we can see what game version it is and what type of game it is. So the first 5 games are tank. You know, the next 4 are tank pong, and next 2 are invisible tank. But let's start with tank. Tank. You got there's 5 different variations of that, different kind of mazes. You basically push up to go forward, left and right to turn left and right, and going back. I don't think you can move backwards. No, you cannot move backwards. But yeah, the kind of the open area is kind of a goofy thing. But I like it when you start to get the maze and try to sneak around the corners. And when you shoot the other guy, they kind of fly backwards and get disabled and spin around for a little bit, giving you the ability to reposition yourself, as it were. Yeah, fun stuff. Not a version of the game that I really play a lot. In fact, when I was younger, this was the least game I would play. And you've got variations of straight or guided missiles. Guided missiles meaning you could steer the bullet while you shot it. Next group is Tank Pong, which I love. I love Tank Pong. Of all the tank variations, Tank Pong is my favorite. And it's basically the same as Tank, except your bullets bounce around on the screen. So if you shot your bullet, and in the original Tank, if you shot your bullet and it hit the wall, yeah, you'd be able to shoot a lot quicker. But Tank Pong, you could ricochet your shots off the walls. In fact, there's a version of the game where the hits only count if you ricochet them off a wall. But if you missed, your bullet would ricochet around for quite some time, and you'd be completely defenseless during that time. But I love Tank Pong because even if you miss, you still have a chance of getting your opponent off of some weird wall shot. Moving on, the next version is Invisible Tanks, which is basically the same as the original tanks again, except your tanks are invisible. Except your tanks become visible if you get hit or when you fire. So it's your opportunity. If you hit a wall too, if you hit a wall, you become visible for a little while, just to let you know you're hitting a wall. But if you're really good at estimating where your tank is, I like this game because it makes it really easy for you to sneak up on somebody if you know where they are. So I like Invisible Tanks. And then there's actually one more tank version, and that's actually a combination of Tank Pong and Invisible Tank, and that's Invisible Tank Pong. And I'm sure you can guess what that is. Invisible tanks with bouncing bullets. After that, we have what's called biplanes. And biplanes is just what it is. Two planes fire. Well, in most games, it's two planes flying around and shooting at each other. What's kind of awkward is that up and down steers left and right, and forward and backwards moves faster and slower. And you could get used to that, but when I get to the next game, I'll tell you why that's a little bit awkward. But you've got, again, straight bullets, guided bullets, where the bullets turn where you turn. Different versions. There are machine guns in this one, so if you hold the button down, you can rapid fire in some versions of the game. And then you've got, instead of mazes like the tanks, you've got where you could just fly around in the open air, or you could have two clouds in the area where you could kind of have some cloud cover. And then we have different versions where there's 2-on-2 or 1-on-3. Now, the 1-on-3 one is one of my favorite ones because I used to play that version of the game a lot with my dad. He'd be the one big plane, and I'd be the three little planes. And his rationale for that was, well, he's the big plane because he's bigger. And then lastly, we have jet planes. And it's very similar to the biplanes, except the jets kind of fly around faster. And remember how I said that for biplanes, up and down was turning left and left and right was actually going faster and slower? Well, with the jets, it's actually reversed, and up and down goes faster and slower, and left and right turns left and right. And I think the rationale behind that was just because of how biplanes control in real life compared to jets. And I think they did that just to kind of try and be more realistic. But honestly, it's kind of confusing when you're switching from one game to the next, because you've got one control scheme for one set of games, and then a very similar second set of games has a completely different control scheme. But you've got kind of the same things there. You got the cloud cover or no cloud cover. You got the guided bullets or no guided bullets. But then you have a 2-on-2, a 1-on-3, and the 1-on-3 is 3 little planes versus 1 little plane, as opposed to the bigger plane. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, let me wrap this up by saying that the reason it's in my collection is because it is the earliest game I had. I remember playing for the Atari VCS or 2600 or whatever. And when you have a memory like that, there's no way you're going to let go of that game. Although I will say that even if I did let go of this game, it would not be too hard by any stretch of the imagination to get another copy. This could easily be gotten for a quarter or less. Even if you go to a store that sells video games, they're probably selling this for 50 cents. So it's a no-brainer. You got to have it. And maybe one day I'll look up and get a manual for this. I don't know. Maybe I'll just get another complete in box copy since it's so cheap. But yeah, honestly, this doesn't get that much play these days because you do need 2 players. You don't have a single-player option with this. But when you do have 2 players, this could be loads of fun. So I'll just leave it at that. Thanks everyone for watching. See y'all next time. Bye.